John Dolan, all in favor? Chris, can you do me a favor?
Yes.
Can you read the agenda question thing?
Okay.
Because I'm going to call. I apologize.
Okay. We're going to go on to agenda number 7. Agenda issues. Okay. Please limit your questions at this time to resolutions under new business on the agenda. As a matter of fairness, you are asked to limit your questions to no more than 1 and your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. If you're here representing the group, please identify yourself, the group, and your position in the group. If you're here as an individual, please give us your name and address. This section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes.
Evelyn Slockbauer, 43 Thunderhead Place. Dr. Schoen, could you please give a description of the District Evaluation Advisory Committee and the School Improvement Panel?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The District Evaluation Advisory Committee is a group of, I want to say perhaps 40, give or take a couple of numbers. Those are administrators, supervisors, teachers, and central office personnel. And what they take a look at most specifically over the last 2 years has been our district evaluation system. It was actually the DEAC that chose to move, along with our administrators, into the Danielson evaluation system. The DEAC is the big umbrella. It's the representative of all the districts, where the SCIP is the school committee team, and that's made up of the principal and a teacher representative at each of the schools, who work with what's going on in the school, most specifically the evaluation system, and then all those same people come and make up the DEAC committee, which meets usually twice a year. I think our first upcoming meeting is going to be October or November or so. But it is an important group because it's a representation of a very large district, and it allows each school to have the opportunity to be able to speak to what it is that's going on.
Okay.
So that's what both of those groups are. Did that help answer your question?
Yes, and just one other question. I see that the HSA president-parent is on there. Julianne Delaney is not going to be the president for this upcoming year?
Yes, and that I knew, and there are parent representations,
okay, and
so you're saying change that.
Well, that needs to be changed, and I just was wondering, could there be 2 parents, two on it? Could Aramapo Ridge, the president, also be on it, so that there are 2 parents, from the HSO committees representing?
I don't know the answer to that, Mrs. Slockbauer, and
Okay.
I will probably speak to Christine Zimmerman, who kind of oversees all of that, and let you know whether or not we do that.
Okay.
It has always been one.
Okay.
It's interesting, because sometimes you'll get a lot of parents who want to be part of something, and then sometimes you really have to go out and search for that kind of thing. But let me find out, and let me get back to you.
I just know as a parent myself, it's nice to have somebody else that you can talk about things with.
Absolutely, and what you heard at the meeting, and take it back. I understand.
Okay.
My apologies. Are there any other questions? I'm so sorry. Superintendent's report, please.
Yes, and a fairly lengthy one this evening, so if everyone would just give me a couple of minutes. We only have a couple of meetings during the summer, and there's been a lot of really great stuff happening. I want to start off with one of the most recent great things, and that is inviting our administrators and supervisors in August 18th and August 19th this year for some serious professional development. We have the opportunity to invite in Dr. Tracy Severance. Dr. Tracy Severance has really dedicated her career to students, teachers, and administrators in New Jersey since 1992. She served as a special education teacher, vice principal, principal, superintendent, adjunct professor, and most recently served as the chief academic officer for the New Jersey Department of Education. She has toured and spoken at presentations all throughout the state on park instructional leadership, data analysis, special education, and school improvement on both state and national levels. She recently left the Department of Ed to kind of be a little closer to home and works for the Mount Olive School District as their student accountability director. Dr. Severance came in, and what made her great is that she is a practitioner, although not in the classroom, so to speak. She's been part of school districts for a long time, and we brought her in because we wanted our instructional leaders, our principals, our supervisors, our directors, to not only understand how to use data, but how to use it for their own purposes of improving instruction in the school and being able to take a look at it and how to work with teachers to engage them more in the work that they're already doing with data analysis. They looked at how to view data and how it was essential to the work that was going on. One of our district and professional development goals this year is really to take a look at data on different kinds of levels, from what we're doing internally to what we're doing statewide. You know, it's as much looking at the data as determining what it says, what to do with those areas we need to improve upon, and to get there. Dr. Severns was really amazing. The second day was all of Mr. Fairs and Ms. Zimmerman, with some help from Ms. Rizzo in the back. And that had a lot to do with park assessment and SGOs and moving forward, because this is the year that the park assessments will go into full force. And there's a lot of vocabulary and a lot of lingo and a lot of things that go along with that. And it's important that our administrators had a real good understanding of that. So most of the day was utilized to kind of train them with that. As you know, Dennis has a real good background in park, and Christine and Dennis have a real great background in SGOs. So that worked out real well. So I wanted to bring that up. Congratulations is out to George Washington and Betsy Ross that were named as reward schools for high performance for the 2013-14 school year. The designation is based on testing results for the 12-13 year. Only 16 schools in Bergen County were named reward schools. So a big congratulations to faculty and staff and administrators. We're also pleased to report that Mahwah High School was named as a top performing high school in arts education. The State Department of Education looked at the integration of arts into school curriculum, making New Jersey the only state in the country to track performance in arts education. We're number 30 in the top 50 of all New Jersey high schools, number 6 in Bergen County as one of the top performing high schools in arts education. So a big congratulations again. I'm almost done, bear with me. Some thank yous really need to go out. The first, and not in order of priority, is to our facility staff and Scott Vandermark for getting our schools prepared for opening on September 4th. Betsy Ross and George Washington had new boilers installed. Lenape Meadows had a playground resurfaced. Joyce Kilmer had new floors installed in both gymnasiums. Ramapo Ridge had LED lights installed in their gymnasium, and our high school had a state-of-the-art sound system installed in the auditorium. We'd also like to thank our technology staff and Carlos Rosa for all of the work they did this summer. We upgraded approximately 300 desktop and laptop computers throughout the district. We also created 3 new computer labs at JK, Ramapo Ridge, and the high school. In addition to aiding with our instruction and communication, these improvements have a lot to do in preparing our kids for the park tests. So a big thank you for that. If you looked at the agenda tonight, it's pretty lengthy. Part of the reason for that is there are 40 curricular guides that are up for board approval this evening that would not have been possible without our faculty, our administrators, and under the direct leadership of Christine Zimmerman. So we are in great compliance, and we have some really great pieces of work. So although lengthy, I did want to share all of that with you. With that said, we're moving on to the highlight of the evening, Ms. Rizzo, and that's going to be the anti-bullying Bill of Rights.
Quick comment on that. Will
Yes.
all of that information be disseminated as part of your
T-Bird Talk newsletter coming out in November. Great question. Yes. That's what we do, is communicate, Mr. Salverini.
Thank you.
My pleasure, but thank you to all.
Reaffirming our commitment.
A lot of work this summer.
I wanted to communicate that properly.
Because we won't be.
Thanks, Rizzo. Should we light up so you can see the screen?
Fine, I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
And I'm sure you have business to handle.
Go quick. Go.
It's all right. This is part of our annual reporting to the board and to the community regarding our anti-bullying Bill of Rights self-assessment. And so, as I did last year, I'll present this information to you. And as last year, the school safety teams, which each building has their own safety team, comprised of staff members, parents, administrators, met together to use the DOE, Department of Education rubric, to evaluate their building on their performance related to the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. The rubric addressed 8 core elements. You can see them here. In regards to element 1, it had to do with programs and approaches and other initiatives. Element 2 was in relation to training for the HIB policy. Element 3 was other staff instruction and training programs. Element 4 had to do with curriculum and instruction. Element 5 had to do with HIB personnel. Element 6 was with school-level incident reporting and procedures. Element 7 was your HIB investigation procedure, and ultimately your HIB reporting. So each school safety team used the rubric to analyze where they believed their building fell regarding their performance. So scores for the rubric were determined based on no points if you felt your building didn't meet criteria, 1 point if you partially met, 2 if you met them, and 3 if you happened to exceed in an area. So the maximum score this year is 78 that any one building can achieve, and the district score is of course the average, with the highest being 78. Mahwah High School this year rated themselves as a 73, and they achieved maximum scores in the core elements of 2, 6, 7, and 8. And I noted areas of strength to be in addressing school-wide conditions. So their school safety team frequently sat down, looked at for any patterns relative to student-on-student behavior, be it HIB or not. So any type of interactions, and made adjustments to their environment. Observing the DOE mandated week of respect, which all of our buildings do very well, and of course their investigations as required by code meet the timelines, meet the quality of the investigation, meet the resolution of the investigation, bring it to you as a board in the time required, and then initiate any type of remedial measures or consequences accordingly. Ramapo Ridge rated itself a 70 out of 78 and achieved the maximum score in their core element 7. And areas were noted in their school-wide conditions. Again, a lot of attention placed on where are our areas within the facility or programmatically where we need to be tuned in. Observing the DOE mandated week of respect, and again, investigations as required by code. Joyce Kilmer received a score of 73. You can see their core elements. They received maximum score in 1, 4, 6, 7, and 8. They too implemented programs unique to Joyce Kilmer, yet inclusive to some of the philosophy district-wide, responsive classrooms, providing age-appropriate instruction on preventing HIB. Joyce Kilmer this year did a concerted effort of reminding and educating and re-educating students on what is appropriate peer-to-peer relationships, what is in fact HIB, and what is in fact conflict, and as well as investigation by code. Betsy Ross achieved a score of 75 with core elements 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 being noted in maximum. They have annually established HIB programs and initiatives. They provide ongoing age-appropriate education, and again, their investigations are compliant. George Washington received a score of 72 out of 78. In areas 3, 4, and 7, they received maximum score. Again, they have programs and initiatives. They provide ongoing age-appropriate education, and they're investigating by code. Lenape Meadows brought their score up considerably and are now at 1, 2, 4, and 7 core areas in compliance, and they have done a concerted effort addressing specific areas within the building that we identified through the school safety team of concern. There was some hallway behavior, there was some restroom behavior, and some bus behavior, which is consistent with all of our elementary schools, but I would say to you, based solely on size, Lenape was seeing a pattern that they overtly addressed through direct instruction to the students during their, class group activities, through grade-wide activities, to bring attention to individual responsibility when perhaps the student-teacher ratio wasn't always as high. Providing ongoing HIB education and their investigations. So our district average that we'll be presenting to the Department of Ed is a 72 out of 78 points. So this year, in the school year 13-14, we had 54 total investigations And of those 54 total investigations district-wide, 13 were actually confirmed HIB cases, all of which you've heard and voted on. As compared to our 12-13 school year, in which we had 96 total investigations, 24 being confirmed cases, and you can see the decrease in terms of total number of investigations and a decrease in the actual confirmed number of HIB cases. So to me, what this slide is representing for the district is that the education that we are doing with the students, for the students, is making a difference in their interactions with each other. But in addition to that, we had to spend a lot of energy just clarifying for everyone what the difference between HIB and code of conduct violations were. The commitment I made to you when I took this over relative to HIB was because I'm basically driven by code, and everything I do for the district is that I would make sure that we met compliance, particularly relative to the law. And so all of your cases were investigated within the timeline set forth by the law. And all of them were investigated with satisfaction of the criteria established by the law. Which to me, in addition to the education, primary is the education to our students and our parents and our teachers about HIB, is making sure that when we are made aware of a case, that we are effectively getting into that case, looking at it from all sides, and satisfying the investigation within the timeline. And I think that's essential to the district and to our commitment to the parents in the community, that when something is said to us, we're taking it seriously. So as part of the self-assessment, we have to set goals for ourselves, and this is what the principals have decided they would like to look at, which is all buildings provide HIB educational opportunities for students during the entire school year. Now again, you saw that there were buildings that did very well in this domain, but what we found was there was crucial windows in the year where we really over-educated the students. The start of the year, the week of respect, all of that, and then it would kind of wane off a little. And the school safety teams would say, wait, we're starting to see something percolate, let's get back at it. And so the principals want to make a concerted effort to have that consistent flow of educational opportunities for the student population throughout the school year. Continue to educate the parents and the students on the difference between HIB and conflict. And to increase building-based meetings with school safety teams, to consistently evaluate the culture and the climate, which would go back to the first bullet, basically saying, making sure that the school safety team is monitoring the culture and climate, and are we then providing the direct instruction to the population so that we can remediate any patterns that we happen to see. So these are our goals, that's our score. This has to be presented to the Department of Ed through transmission by September 30th, which we will meet the timeline, which is essential to the district as well. Are there any questions?
What happens after the 30th? What does the state do with this? Does it report back to the state?
Yes, I mean, the state actually reviews it. It becomes all part of the rating system that we receive as a district globally. So the violence and vandalism report is used to also devise analysis of MAWA as a total district, and then our HIB scores are actually analyzed by the Department of Ed to the point where they will look at the score that we've given ourselves and actual information that we've provided to them through NJ Smarts, and they will say, yes, your scores match up, or you know what, you gave yourself a little too high of a score based on the actual data you've surrendered to us. So that will be, sometime in May, where they will correlate everything I've presented to them, and they will either identify that we are on target and have properly self-assessed, or that we've been too generous or not generous enough in our scoring.
What are the state's criteria for, we have 72 out of 78, commendable. Does the states feel that way also? Have they laid out anything that
No, they haven't laid out parameters to say this is a passing score or this is not a passing score. Obviously, the directive from the Department of Ed is that 78 should be what is acceptable to us as a community. So as we continue to strive for that, that is the goal. There shouldn't be a range of mediocrity, let's say, relative to HIB. It should be aggressively addressed as a community and handled procedurally.
Thank you.
Good question. So next year, will you give us another presentation? Can we track from the inception of this every year so that we can see over the years how many cases we've been investigating, how many are actual cases?
Yes, and so since the inception and the requirement for us to do that, that's exactly what you have tonight, and that is my goal, to continue to show, which is my expectation, the downward trend in the actual number of confirmed cases. You know, controlling the number that are reported, I'm not so interested in, because everyone has the right to make a report, and we tell staff and parents, don't hesitate. But it is actually the number of confirmed cases that is within our power as a community to make a change. Yes.
So on those, is it fair then to say that the first year with 96 was essentially the kind of reaction to the implementation of the law? That 54 represents really the baseline, right? The sense of saying we had things in place and more practice in the procedures, is that?
Twofold. I will say to you that the principals will absolutely assert that the first year, parents, students themselves had no idea really how to tease out conflict versus HIB. So anytime, under my directive, anytime anyone squeaked the word HIB, whether it was harassment or intimidating or bullying, the forms came out and we moved forward. I will say to you that the decrease, in my opinion, is the parent knowledge piece, the student knowledge piece, and the overall culture attention to we expect each other to treat each other respectfully, and this is what it looks like in your classroom.
So then there's, of the 54 that you have to investigate, you're still looking at 7 to 10 hours per?
We've gotten better at it, but you know, it all depends. It all depends on how forthcoming people are when they make that initial report. It all depends on the number of students who are actually need to be investigated. It could be as small as my accusation against Dennis and the two of us being interviewed because no one else witnessed it, to everyone in this room witnessed something, and so they all need to have an opportunity to report. And of course, you know, age-appropriate reporting, the range in which the adult has to be supportive of the reporting process has to be taken into consideration in time. The principals and their assistants have gotten much better at that process. The more we do it, the better we get at it. But we do invest time in it, and rightly so, when someone makes a claim that their child or they themselves have been harassed, intimidated, or bullied.
And then, so it feels then like HIB training is becoming a part of the curriculum.
Yes,
Per se.
yes. When you look at responsive classrooms, restorative practices, all of those elementary initiatives, I mean, George Washington every year picks a theme and runs with that theme for the entire year. JK has the keys of character, so students are involved in that process all year long. They're reminded. But there are still, you know, locations within a building where kids think it's, you know, we're not watching so closely in their mind, and so they take a risk to maybe not be nice.
And it doesn't pay.
It doesn't pay.
Thank you,
Any other
Lisa. That was
questions?
very comprehensive.
Thank you for your
I really
time.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do we want to address our board self-evaluation at this time under open issues? As I gather, this information was given out, as I understand it, at the last meeting, but not ultimately discussed. So,
Right.
Chris, do you want to lead us off on that?
Sure. Okay, all of you should have another copy of our board self-eval, and I hope you had a chance to look it over. So I'd like to open it up to discussion. What I was thinking is maybe we might go over each section and discuss each section, or if we decide there's nothing to discuss, we'll move on. Okay, so has everybody ready? Okay. All right, we have the first section is about our board, and there are 4 points areas that we rated ourselves. Would there anyone like to discuss any of these points in this first section? I just want to give everybody an opportunity to ask any questions that they would like, raise any point that they would like.
keep in mind, there was one point that said that we don't communicate. So it might be a good time for us to actually communicate. This is the only opportunity, as a Board of Education, that we can have a discussion in public. We are not allowed to meet more than 4 members of the Board of Education behind closed doors. So there cannot be a majority of us. So these conversations have to happen here. They have to happen in public. I'm going to throw one out because I'm a little concerned by the number of insufficient information. I'm going to go broke here because it's quite honestly, it's all the way down. Nobody misses that many meetings. By law, you cannot miss 3 meetings in a row without a doctor's note. I don't think any of us have missed more than 1 meeting. Peter, your exception because you had your knee done.
Right.
This being said, if you're at this table, why do we feel that we have insufficient information? I'm assuming everybody can access their email through the MOA website. I'm assuming you get up all the backup data that comes on a Friday. So I'm assuming that everybody has that opportunity on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday to really take a look at what that board packet looks like for the week. I know when I run the meeting, I'm very careful to tell everybody if there's a change, if there is a revision. So I'm the insufficient information in the way that it is here, I don't understand it.
Tricia, you talking?
Any number in that one column.
Okay.
The scores on top of it, commendable, good, satisfactory, insufficient information.
Right.
Is it possible that somebody just figured 1 was the lowest score and put a 1, not realizing it was insufficient information? I'm just...
One of us or 2 of us did it. So if you'd like to speak up and say that you don't have the information, I mean, again, this is the only place we can have a board discussion. So I usually feel like, I don't know if being the president, it certainly doesn't allow me any more privilege. I have no other privileges than you guys have, I promise. I don't get different information from you. Chuck and Chris don't get information differently. John, you've been the president. Peter, you've been the president. I think you can attest to that.
Trish, I'm looking at the scores and I see there are a lot of 1s like all the way down. I'm wondering if somebody thought maybe it was on a scale of 1 to 4 as opposed to on a scale of 2 to 4. You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of self-explanatory at the
I
top
think
what it
so,
says.
and most of us have been doing this for a very long time, so they,
Yeah.
and that column has always been for insufficient information. And there might be times when, okay, well, I don't know if X, Y, and Z, and here and there I can understand it.
Right, I just see a lot of
But I think I.
So whoever filled in the 1s knew they were filling in 1s.
Well, I don't know if it was the same person. It could be.
It could be different
different
people.
people putting in 1s in different places. So it's not as if it's one person did all these 1s. And I don't want anyone to think that it's one person's fault or one person's opinion. However, I think that as a board, I'm gonna agree with Trish in that if there is something that you don't know or you're not sure about, that it's incumbent upon us to ask those questions, and you know, that's why we meet as a board. So, you know, that would be my recommendation as, you know, looking at this, is that if there's something we're not clear about, that, you know, ask the questions. I mean, we have, you know, you could ask Trish, you could ask any one of our administrators, we could discuss it in a meeting. I mean, but I think it's our responsibility to make sure that if we're not clear on something, that we ask. So that would be my
I
recommendation
think
on that
Rick
point.
touched upon it, and I think that's why the ones that are appearing is that, for example, involves the community appropriately in district planning. What's appropriately? I mean, it should be more of a clarification in the statement than that statement there. It may not. It's not an attack on the administration or on the executive committee. It's a case of
Does the wording really, is the wording really appropriate for what we're
Yes.
trying to ask?
Yes, it's not
Yeah,
an attack
a lot
on
of
one
this
person.
has been taken in a cut and paste fashion over the years from school boards. School boards, though, tend to get very too detail-oriented, that we found, and we've always found that this is probably the easier way to do it. And maybe, thank you, Peter, maybe that's a great point, that we take a look at the wording of the question to make sure it would be something that people should be aware of.
And again, that's also something that would or might be clarified with conversation. So,
Sure.
one of the points was that we don't communicate, well enough with each other. We can only really communicate with each other in this room. As Trish said, if we have more than 5 of us in any other room, we can't discuss any kind of board business. So that's what my concern was, is that, that everyone feels comfortable to raise any points or questions that they might have in, and when we're sitting at this table.
So, I mean, I think I'll follow Peter's point, like, we have 2 ones under provides for staff and public input during policy development when appropriate. So many of the policies that we end up having to vote on are mandated for implementation by the state. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's a very good point.
as far as I'm concerned, if that were clarified in terms of saying, discretionary policy, then I might feel better about saying, okay, I actually have the right
Yeah, that's a
information
good,
here, but
Right.
that's a very
if
good
the
point.
state says every school bus has to have X, Y, and Z on it, where's the input?
Their
We don't
policies.
have input on that.
Right.
There are policies, if I may.
Yes,
and
please.
This is not my discussion, but there are policies that districts put into place that are brand new ballgames, that you actually have your policy company go ahead and write something specific to the needs you have in your district. Sometimes, and I've been in districts where there are controversial topics that will require the staff input to come in. So it may not be related to here, perhaps it becomes an NA. You leave it, so it's always there, but
Right.
it becomes an NA moving forward, just put a line through it because you know it was something that didn't take place. But it still
Very
allows
true.
the opportunity as you move
Very
forward.
true.
It's just something to consider, but I understand
Might
why
we
it's,
consider that just removing
I
some.
understand,
Yeah,
I understand
okay.
why it's there.
And you know what, maybe after this, we can go through these questions again and see if there's
Sure.
any rewarding we could do. Thank you both for those ideas, that's great. Okay, so, Trish?
One of the only ones, the other one that stood out to me were provides for public provides for public recognition of staff achievements. I guess satisfactory, 3 people commented satisfactory on that one.
Where are we?
I'm sorry, on
Page
page
two,
2,
the bottom.
at the bottom, board staff relations on our board. This is another one of those, and maybe again, it's wording. We can only really provide for staff achievement at this table. We are no longer allowed to give them their wings when they get tenure. We're no longer allowed to give them their apple when we hired them. I mean, we can no longer provide them with coffee for a morning meeting, nor lunch, nor anything else. So our recognition of staff achievements has to be here. And, and I don't know where else to do that. Does anybody have any other?
I'd say, again, you got a little bit maybe of a phraseology issue here. So if this says provides for public recognition of staff achievements within the existing framework, that may be better. I think the 3s you're seeing are just frustration that we can't do the things that you just mentioned that we used to be able to do.
Okay.
I mean, all we ever really get to do now is.
Thank you very much.
Somebody-
We really
Yeah.
appreciate all the work that you've done. We
Marching band goes out and kicks ass and wins something, and we can recognize that, but we can't do anything specific to the
But when we
instructional
do that-
staff. And we try to bring it all tied together, but we can't do it the way we
No,
used to.
what I'm thinking is, because I'm taking some ownership over these kinds of things, because we can provide them to you moving forward. But with something like the musical recognition, we will definitely give Mr. Bittner kudos in that process. When we win a state championship, we'll give the coach kudos in that process. There were a couple of events last year where we
mock trial.
the mock
Yeah.
trial, so, perhaps we can look to help you with that this year moving forward so that you do have more public recognition for that.
Okay, that would
You
be
know what I
great.
mean? Well,
Yeah.
Not coffee, not donuts, not that kind of thing.
No,
Moving
no,
forward
no.
with recognition of accomplishments. So
Yeah.
perhaps we can try to
Okay.
do that together.
I think the public, I feel sorry for them, sort of in the dark, I have no idea what we're talking about.
It's
And-
That's why we come.
And to be in the dark?
No, it's
No. But overall, our self-evaluation was excellent.
Yes.
I mean, I don't
Yes.
think that we're really, with the thing, beating ourselves about that. There are some crazy things in here that don't make sense. For example, acts as a representative of the entire district. Everybody who's on the Board of Election, the Board of Education realizes that you were put in there by the public and you're representing their needs as best as you can. And we, someone panned us. Okay, we're not, somehow we're not doing a good enough job in that person's eyes. So we'll look at it and see if we can strengthen it. So we apologize that you can't see right now what we're talking about, but keep in mind, overall, this was an excellent self-evaluation by the members of this group.
And one we take very seriously, obviously, which allows for the conversation this evening.
I'd like to talk about
Rick.
the last section, the board and community, because I'm looking at the other ones and they're mostly 4s, mostly 3s, there's a couple of the ones. The last section, there were a whole bunch of 4s, 3s, and 2s. Those questions are: acts as a representative of the entire district, encourages community attendance, participation, input, promotes community use of school facilities, builds partnerships with the community, business, and governmental leaders, provides opportunity for meaningful parental involvement, and has an effective community relations program. I mean, there's kind of a wide range of scores there. I mean, there should be some discussion about that. I mean, personally, I think we could do a better job of publicizing when our meetings are. I mean, I know we do the thing in the paper, and I know it's on the website, and I don't know, it seems to me we could, with the technology available, we could do a better job of making people aware of, hey, we have a meeting tonight, come on out. You know, no, up until a month ago, I had said, you know what, the patch would be a great place to do that, but since Jess left, the patch has become like the patch everywhere else in the United States, and it's completely worthless. So that's sort of a, kind of a dead issue as far as I'm concerned, but I'd like to see something, some way, and I don't have the answer, I don't know, you know, with the patch being gone, the patch seems to be like that's where a lot of people look. I don't know that there's another spot where a lot of people really look, where it could go, it could be in one spot. But
What we can do, as we're talking about it, and I can't disagree with you, communication is super important, is we do those district e-blasts on Friday only. One of those can be dedicated to a reminder that a board meeting is coming up the following week. That's certainly an avenue that wouldn't cost us anything, and we could get that out. It's just something to consider if that's okay with everybody.
Why don't we take some considerations on that, Suzanne?
We also used to put it on MCN. I don't know
That would be nice, yes, I would ask for 4 years. But I think you hit on something that I yell and scream about with this superintendent, the previous superintendent, is we only seem to deal with our school community. We don't let the people who no longer have children or don't have children yet in the school district know what's going on. They come out in droves when there's something they perceive as bad, but the other times they don't know what's happening. And I scream and yell because, you know, I used to send, whenever it was a MAO, I think I sent New Jersey School Board puts out what's called daily clips of all the schools districts and the news articles of all school districts in Jersey. And, I mean, if someone stubs their toe, Milburn has got an article in the paper about it. We don't do that. We seem to gravitate towards our website. And that only affects the people who have kids in the school. It doesn't show the general community or surrounding communities how well we're doing. For example, being the 7th in Bergen County. Now, you guys who go onto the website will see that. But other places won't see that unless they happen to go to the site that had the Star Ledger. But having those things out there draws in people to move into our community to see we really are a great school district.
Peter, though I do have to say, and thanks to Suzanne and thanks to Lauren, at the end of last year, we had a fabulous, and I'm going to forget what it's called, Pride and Spirit, See What Happens, I don't know which one it was. That really, this one, I'm sorry. And this was July. This was absolutely fantastic.
It was.
And as I understand it, it was printed and left around at the library, town hall. It was available to all of the members of our school district because we have their email addresses. And I do think it was seen by a lot of people.
Back in the day, we used to send them right to the house.
We used to mail them, and that was incredibly expensive.
That was an incredibly great article.
But there has to, and we had to do, well, I think it was just one by law. The one by law had to be for the budget. But again, we can try this kind of thing again. Suzanne, sorry.
The the way those people are getting in the papers is they're being proactive and they're sending out press releases.
That's right.
Which is a whole.
That's exactly right.
If we want to do that every time we do something great, send out a press release to our reporters.
Well, as we always say, we are Bergen County's best kept secret in education.
Yeah, I know. I mean, these people tonight know how wonderful we've been all summer. But that's,
I don't
was
know.
just 8 people here?
We are.
Do
Go.
we have a link on the town
Yes,
website?
we do.
We do have a
We had
link.
that.
Oh, we do.
There is
Oh,
some-
good.
Okay, so that.
We'll start using the town,
Yes,
let's do that.
And also, what else was I saying? What, even for, as far as, I know, again, kind of targets the parents, people that have children, but what about putting it on the sign, the high school, the lighted sign, BOE meeting tonight, or, I know they do that in Ramsey, I hate to bring up another town.
I was thinking,
Especially that town.
Harry was here tonight, perhaps we approach the town and ask about Nextel. They seem to use it an awful lot.
You know what, Doug, I gotta tell you, I'm on that, you know, the Nixle thing for Mawa, for Paramus, for River Edge by work, and it's amazing to see how differently that's used. You know, in Mawa, it's, you know, that we're having, you know, ice cream social today, and, you know, in Paramus, there's a major car accident, Route 17 is shut down, and I think there's a lot that goes through Mawa's program that probably shouldn't, and my concern there is that people are gonna unsubscribe to it.
Yeah.
You know, the more stuff you put on there, that's, you know, you subscribe to that after Sandy for,
I was
you know,
gonna say,
emergency
yeah.
information, and you get the ice cream social and the Easter bunny, which is great, but I don't know that that's the best venue for that. The more stuff you try and put on there, the more people are gonna unsubscribe, and when we really need it,
Yeah, I agree.
you know.
I thought when the originally was put out there that we had a choice of doing the emergency situations and social. 'Cause I agree with you, it's a pain in the neck to
I think
find
they
out
kind of
about the Easter bunny
blended.
coming.
Yeah, to
I
have
know
two
he's
separate
coming.
things maybe. Yeah, well, exactly.
Well,
You're right.
look, this at least
But I
gives
think
us
the
some
signs are good
ideas to take a look at and see where we can go with this.
Maybe somehow we can reach out to the rest of the town, say, hey, how would you like to see this? Where do you go? What would be a good, you know, a good place for us to put this?
I've always heard that we know where you are.
That's pretty much it. I mean, if they want to know where the
I-
board
I-
event
we
meetings,
know where
they're
you
going
are
to
on Wednesday
the
nights.
school website, they're going to the town website. It's published on the school website, so, you know, it's no great mystery as to when and the times that they're going to be held. It's a question of actually them actually proactively seeking out the information. I mean, we've established a calendar, you know, we make the announcements in the newspapers, they're on several different websites. So, I mean, take a horse, leave it to water, you can't force a horse to
No,
drink,
you
so
can't.
I mean,
it's out there.
we could look at the website itself and sort of assess it for its goodness relative to other websites that are out there.
All right, well, I think I was gonna suggest that part of that be done. So I think if we look at all of these different
Seems a little
ideas.
small by comparison.
Okay, well, you can take a look at it.
We got the board down by the train station too.
Is it digital, that one, or no?
No.
Is it the one by George Washington too?
But no one looks at those.
No, I
George
know.
Washington. I think that, yeah, I think Chris's idea of we have so many electronic signs now that we can very easily put this stuff up. It's a
Sure.
start.
I mean, that's just a
It's a
high
start.
traffic road, a lot of people do travel down that road, it's something.
Yeah, as long as you're not interfering with the,
And I think to John's point, that our schedule really hasn't changed, but maybe a reminder is something that people would appreciate, and maybe putting it on the sign, doing something like that. a reminder.
I'm
I think
open
the Friday
to.
will help, I think the Friday before the,
I think-
Yeah, let's try
before
that.
the Wednesday, that we can certainly put into action. And then we'll talk about these other things and see if we can use as well to help publicize.
I mean, I needed to know when meetings were, and it's right there on the website. It's clearly listed now right on the upper right-hand corner, all of the.
And we did that on purpose, redesigned with the Public Relations Committee last year because we wanted it to.
Okay, so I think that's clear. It just may be, maybe if there's a special presentation going on, like tonight's bullying or some kind of testing, those kind of things, we can publicize. And the actual dates are there, which is what we're doing in
True.
those meetings.
Well, I had a number of calls and text messages to
It's on the
find out what the school calendar was. and finally, I just was like, is it me? So I click right onto the district website, it says 2014, 2015 school calendar, and I was like, I don't know what people are missing, why they don't get the link. So obviously we need to do a little bit of something, but I really do like that idea of if it's a special presentation, we can advertise it in that way.
We can include that in the Friday e-blast that goes home. I also place the presentations on our agenda, like this evening, Ms. Rizzo's is on our agenda publicly, so that there is a formal noting of what it is we're up to. The district testing presentation will be taking place in October, so that'll be up front as well. I'm doing the HIB next month, that'll be up front as well, so.
And maybe we need to, if you're getting phone calls saying, well, what's the school calendar? Obviously, people aren't thinking about the website, I gotta go to the website, maybe.
No, they're thinking, oh, Trish will know.
Well, I know, but then,
Right,
maybe we need to do a better job of making sure people know that this is the website, this is the answer to a treasure trove of information, you know what I mean?
Sure.
To get the website out there as the resource rather than your phone number, which I'm happy to give out to whomever.
It's easy to be out there anyway, don't worry about it. All right,
Is there anything else that anyone
Thank
else
you.
would like to discuss on this self-eval? Okay.
okay,
Thank
let's
you very
take some of that stuff and run with it. Thank you. Mr. Fair, welcome. This is my first meeting having you here as the assistant superintendent.
This is great.
Welcome.
We are fully staffed for the 2014-2015 school year, so it's a great thing. Hired 36 full-time teachers as leave replacements and tenure track positions, as well as paraprofessional positions across all content areas and grade levels. And along with that, our current new teacher orientation is underway, which will be completed tomorrow. I worked with them firsthand, and they are a wonderful, smart, receptive group of teachers, so I'm pumped. We're all pumped, really. And Lisa met them, Ed met them, Dr. Schoen, as well as Christine Zimmerman. We've worked with them firsthand, so. And, yes, and Mrs. Shana. So, and you can tell, really positive.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, really positive energy.
Yeah.
So, we're really excited. So, that's it for personnel.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ed?
Not a lot, other than, I mentioned this at the last meeting, I think. I inadvertently scheduled September 24th for a board meeting, not realizing that the next day was Rosh Hashanah.
Oh,
So when the
yes.
school calendar came out, so in talking to executive committee, we thought for the moment we would cancel that meeting. If we need another one, then we'll worry about that, depending on what happens the next 2 weeks in terms of the next meeting.
Yeah.
So
So we'll just note that.
so when we finalize that, I'll post
On the website?
on the website.
Thank you. President's report, I really don't have one, so I'm just gonna go right into the instructional meeting. Chuck couldn't join us this past meeting last Wednesday, so Chris thankfully came. And you will see tonight on the agenda, as Dr. Schoen said, there are 42 curricula that have been written over the summer. And I'm gonna touch on this just a little bit differently, this because I think our teachers did such a great job. The instructional committee has really been allowing and begging them to take more time to write the curriculum, or more time to meet and get some professional development, do their research before they start. And I think this has created a really great excitement about doing it, an ability to look at the curriculum, to really study it. Our investment was about $19,000 to $20,000 for the summer curriculum writing. So, although not like blown out of the water, it's an investment that we make. But the staff also make that investment in terms of looking at their own curricula and working with it. So I am so excited to tell you the amount that they have done and how enthusiastic everybody is. All of our curriculum now is on the district shared drive. We are compliant with Common Core and
New Jersey Core Content Curriculums.
New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards. Oh, one of those ways. I'll maybe with the SSNs. So, which I think is absolutely fantastic. We dig deeper, we go further, they're living documents, teachers can add activities, they can add anything else they want to these curriculum under their supervisor at least. The only other thing I really want to touch on, and we do have a book here for this evening, I'm sorry, that is on the agenda if anyone wants to take a look at it, the new digital and film book. This is the one that's recommended, it's the one the instructional committee is recommending. Mimi, world language. I don't know if you remember, about 8 years ago, Mimi came to us and had this view of world language, that we should be doing it differently. And she came to us with the idea that our students would take a STEM test, God bless you, in 8th grade. The STEM test, and I do not remember what it stands for anymore, but the STEM test allowed that student to enter our high school having finished the first year of their target language. And she has worked diligently with all of this, and she has, she's come so excited. She has revamped the entire world language department to the tune that our AP Spanish class, these are non-native speaking, so they're not Spanish speaking students. The entire class, with the exception of one, passed the AP test with 5s. The one that didn't get the 5 got a 4. And we're seeing the same numbers in French. So my hat is off to a view and this board's commitment behind something that it may have taken us 8 years to see the results, but they sure are worth it. So,
This is a check mark in public recognition of faculty, by the way, for next year's Board of Health. Mimi's really done an incredible job, and she has an incredible faculty.
Yes,
And
yes.
her view, her vision moving forward is something that she just cheerleads, as do all of our supervisors.
Yeah.
With our incredible faculty along the way. But this is really something absolutely worthy of
Yeah.
recognition, because the faculty has just embraced it and made it become alive.
Yeah.
So we're very
Yeah,
grateful.
it's
for
really,
that.
it's fabulous.
It is.
So, I will be done now, I promise. Any other committee reports?
I got highlights on negotiations,
Okay,
if you would like them.
sure.
So, if you're not aware, everybody should be aware, our contract has expired with the MEA, expiring this past June. That was the end of a 3-year deal that we had negotiated previously. Since the late fall of 13, we've had an informal process going back and forth internally trying to get an extension done. We've not been able to come to an agreement. You may have noticed that the MEA took out an ad in the Suburban News on the 21st expressing their views about settling. Subsequently, they've taken some actions. We have to see what those actions drive in terms of the next change or next steps for us. There's no meetings presently scheduled, and I hope to have a fuller, more robust report when we get together on the 10th.
That'd be great, thank you.
That's it.
Sorry, anybody else? Any reports?
Dr. Schoen gave Women facilities.
No, we're good.
Did you mention the windows at Joyce Gilman?
No, I did not. Would you mention that for me, please, during
Got
your
new
report?
windows at Joyce Gilman? With an E-value of R20?
Wow.
Before, we had an E-value of minus R78. It's just like about having windows there.
Just review this all. All right, all business? Can I have a motion for all business? Moved by Peter, second by Chuck. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Robinetti?
Yes.
Mr. Salarini? Mr. Wondrikowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Curry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. De Silva?
Yes.
And Mrs. Sharp?
Yes. Abstain, I'm so sorry. Abstain, thank you. New business 16, A through X, X, moved by Peter, second by Chris Davis. I'm probably gonna drive you all crazy, but can we have a small discussion on the policy, please? That is M on page 7. It's both the social networking sites for teaching staff and use of social networking sites for support staff and teaching staff, their individual policies. I just have, I have right now in front of me the support staff members, and I'm just wondering, item 3, where the text messaging communication, I understand about, you know, social media and not being friends on Facebook and not following each other on Twitter and stuff. The single contact that is disallowed for text messaging. Did everybody read this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mandatory?
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm just asking.
It is, it's a mandatory policy. But I'm wondering, and this applies in teaching staff, it also applies to co-curricular activities and stuff. So, I'm just wondering, is it really feasible for, I'm gonna take Jeff Bittner. I know he loves me, I'll take Jeff. If Jeff wants his drummers to come early, and there's 5 of them, he has to text message the entire band to tell 5 people to come early. Because by this policy, you have to contact everybody. So it's an entire class, if you want to text. You know, I'm trying to think of breaking it down. But there is no way of breaking that down. If the co-curricular leader wants to get a hold of that entire thing, they've got to text everybody. Is there a number we could put in? Kids do not check email anymore. I mean, they're hard pushed to. So
It's like putting out a schedule though. Drummers come on Thursday at 3 o'clock.
and I get that, but if it changes,
And with sports, sometimes you can't find a field, or you can't get a hold of another kid or another parent to find out where the field is. You're gonna text the coach, you're gonna tell your kid, go text the coach to see where it is.
not anymore, you're not. Not after we adopt this.
That's what I feel the way you did that.
I ran this
What-
policy past Mr. Pascal and Mr. Miller, because they're the biggest users, or rather, their students are the biggest users of texting and that kind of thing. What I wanted to make sure is that we were in compliance, and that what these new mandates were suggesting and saying we needed to do, we can do. And I was assured by both that we can move forward with this policy.
So now,
What other avenues there may be for communication that may be set up because this is in place, I will believe we'll be able to work through.
so does it matter who the text was initiated by?
No.
No, so you can get
So-
around that, that's what you're thinking?
Well, no,
No.
well, actually, my question is this, and again, it goes back to the point that you had raised. If a student is at a particular location and they haven't been notified of the change, that student is now prohibited from texting the teacher, or is the teacher prohibited from responding to the student's text?
What the teacher, as I read it, the teacher would be prohibited from responding to an individual student's text,
I could respond to the entire group.
but could respond to the entire group. Now, that group could be 5 people, or that group could be a football team of 92, or whatever is on a football team.
Right, but a group can be constituted by a small area. So for example, if we have the drum line, that's not the whole band, it's just a drum line. So we could send something to the drum line, not to all 80 members. If we have defense, to defend what football?
Linebacker.
Thank you. The search group of, you're helping me out now, you know what I mean, the big,
Yeah.
right. We can use that as a group, so we could make smaller groups to afford that communication.
And if you have somebody who's stuck in a field and they don't know where they are, I mean, there are other people in the band or on the team that they
That
can
can
text a
communicate.
friend or.
Yeah, I just don't want this to be so hard that that we have a hard time following a policy that is mandated, and I'm just wondering, and maybe for tonight, we could approve this policy as written,
We have to-
and then we might wanna take a look at it and have John and Brian maybe send it out to people that work in the smaller groups or in large groups that don't have
Isn't there-
small group breakdowns.
It's not a requirement to assure safety and supervised instruction
Yeah.
at all times, supersede this particular policy.
Yes.
Therefore, communications should take place as they need to ensure people
That is- that
don't
is-
show
Yeah,
up into
I-
an
Mr.
unsupervised
Salverini is
environment.
I don't think that this really
Linebacker.
is supposed to be preventing this. I think it's more the social websites
Uh-huh.
and what they can see and what they can't see. So I would, but can I send it back? Doug, can we send it back to policy so you can double check
More
on it
than
for me
happy
too?
I think what you should be looking at is passing this, it's mandated,
Yes,
and realizing we're protecting the teachers and the students,
yes.
but the regs are gonna be important. That's what we should be looking at, and before
Oh.
it becomes official, then say, okay, the board's a little uncomfortable with this particular part of the reg, can we work on that? And we've done that in the past.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
so my next question is, how do you separate a text message from a phone call?
Well,
I
your
don't
phone
think
would
it's
ring
specified.
if,
No, but they, I mean.
I know.
It is one way.
yeah.
There's no mention of phone calls in there.
Yeah, I think there is.
Electronic,
There is.
Yeah, it's all electronic communication.
They-
Why don't we do this, if you don't mind, we cannot table this tonight because we have to have it at the path. And it just puts an awful lot of restrictions, I think, more than we may need. That maybe we can
Check it out.
work around it, we can check it out, but we approve it tonight and, if I can send it back to you with the regs, that'd be
We
great.
can also revise it.
Okay, that'd be great,
As long as we're hitting the legal mandates.
Well,
that we-
that's-
Yes.
Again, run it by our attorneys.
yeah.
Change the
Okay,
field.
so, I'm sorry, now I'll stop talking. 16, A through X. It was moved by Peter, second by Chris. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Benetti?
Mr. Evans?
Be a nightmare.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Salverini?
Yes.
Mr. Wonderful?
Yes.
Mrs. Perry? Mr. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. De Silva?
Yes.
And Mr. Schott.
Yes. Now I'd like to take 17, A through ZZ. Moved by Peter, second by Rick. All in favor? Roll, questions or comments?
This is your cue to jump up and say what a wonderful person, and she was a wonderful person. Joan Garris was.
She still is a better.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
not, she hasn't passed.
she's not leaving here until,
But she was gifted and talented for a large number of years, and she will be missed.
yes, she will. Yes, she will. Roll call, please.
You said, Peter.
A through double Z. Mr. Dolan?
Yes, abstain on JJ.
Good job, John.
Mr. Benetti?
Yes.
Mr. Salverini? Mr. Wonderful?
Yes.
Mrs. Perry? Mr. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. De Silva?
Yes.
And Mrs. Schott.
Yes. Public questions, this section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes.
Evelyn Slotbarrow, 43 Thunderhead Place. I like the ideas that you came up with trying to communicate to the public more. I've seen at Pascack Hills, their electronic sign outside their school advertising their Board of Ed meetings. And I also think as far as teacher recognition, that's something maybe that could be done in the Thunderbird newsletter or a spotlight on the website. And as far as the website, I would like you all to take a look at it and see improvements, because I think as a parent, sometimes you go and I click on a calendar here, I know where the school calendar is, but there are a few different calendars. And then you've got all the sports on, if you go to the district calendar, you have all the sports. So sometimes, I think just realigning everything and making things more consistent so that when you're on each website, they closer resemble each other.
Should be more intuitive.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Salverini.
Thank you.
Kim Barron, 15 Owino Place. Yeah, along those same lines. I had gone on the website, and there were two places that had Board of Ed meetings, and whatever the center one had old dates, and then the one to the right, which I guess is maybe from you guys, had the correct dates. So that was a little confusing. I mean, I knew that the old dates were no longer in use, but.
Thank you, Mr. Barron.
And even if you look on the agenda, one of them, if you click on it, has the 2013 but doesn't have the new. So that's where I'm saying is I feel like it's patched together sometimes, and you're going to look for something and you have to do so much searching.
Hi, I'm Christine Moranti for Ivy Lane, and speaking just real quick as president of the HSO from Betsy Ross. So I think you have an avenue to communicate with parents through the HSOs. At Betsy Ross, on my monthly agenda for our monthly meetings, I have at the end, and I'm known for really long stuff, but at the end I list all of your meetings, and I list the Ridge and the high school meetings, their HSA meetings, so that our parents who have older kids can see that. I also noticed that JK was helping with the start of school packets. Lisa Hempley put right off the website, a printout of your Board of Ed meetings right in this first day of school packet at JK. So I mean, I can do more of that next year at Betsy Ross, but maybe if I can help you reach out to the other schools, or Dr. Sean at our meetings, we could do that a little bit.
I think it's a great idea.
That would be great. Most of the
JK
time it's been like a representative.
That was my next thing. At
you know,
JK,
that
they
comes
have
and then
one.
reports back. Yeah.
Betsy, we've tried over the years to get people to volunteer. I've tried to say you have to come at every meeting, you can just read the minutes. So I've been trying to come myself, you know, for us, for our family, as well as for the HSO. But I don't know, you know, maybe you have an idea of what a designated representative, how we can forge a relationship and make that like a little interesting, or I could set up 3 people, we kind of take turns, you know, but that's like one way that we could help, you know, do that, you know, a little bit more, you know, together. You have us, is basically what I'm saying, we're starting, we're trying.
I really appreciate it, thank you.
It really is.
Yeah.
If I could ask a quick question, what does the star mean next to some of the agenda items? There's a star next to some personnel items, like M in particular.
We receive our agenda on Friday, the board members. It's put together by Central, Nancy Rapetti, along with the superintendent, myself. And we receive that on a Friday. So we have the opportunity to look at it over the weekend and study it. If changes then are made prior to the Wednesday meeting, we don't get notified necessarily of that change, but it appears on there as an asterisk, as a revision. That way the board knows to look at that and say, oh, this either wasn't here on Friday when I looked at my packet, or the wording may have been changed, so maybe something you want to take a look at.
Great.
So that's for us.
A lot of parents have come to me because, you know, the position of the HSO as well, but also personally, you know, they see a job opening, employment opening for a teacher, 4th grade JK. Teacher assignments went out. The job opening, and they've got a teacher assignment, but the new teachers are here and the agenda being approved today. How do I answer their question of, you know, is the teacher you have on your thing the old teacher? Is your teacher the new teacher? How do we know who is being replaced by who, with all respect to confidentiality? I'm going to let Mr. Fair
answer that question for you.
There's a lot here.
The situation that you're referring to happens to be something that's most recent, and I think the best way to say is that it's a personnel-related issue, and that the first thing a parent should do is call the principal of the building. Certainly, Mr. Farrer would know is his position of overseeing the hires and the replacements, but sometimes things do occur at a date, and we just need to do what we need to do to make sure we have the right person. You know, we have a person and a good teacher in front of the kids. So in the situation that you're talking about, they're personnel related, please talk to the principal first, would be the venue to take.
Okay, so all of these parents are not sure if their teacher is being replaced or not. So my answer is call Dr. DeToro and find out who your teacher is, even though you just got a letter telling us who your teacher is.
And what I will do as well, Christine, is I will reach out to Dr. DeToro, let him know that there are 4th grade parents that are interested in knowing what's going on, and perhaps he can send a one-call message email directly to the parents so that the message is coming from him, as opposed through the telephone.
Right. The other location, I didn't ask Mrs. Tucker yet, but is at Betsy Ross, where everyone kind of knows there's a teacher on leave until January, and then there's replacement. But the letters that came home to us 1st grade parents had the January teacher's name on it, So I don't know where the communication is. They're asking me, when's the communication? How am I gonna know who my teacher is from December to January?
Okay, and you received that letter recently?
They received a letter that named the January teacher, but not the December to January teacher.
Okay, I'll be sure to take care of that tomorrow. All right?
But the answer again to them is call Mrs. Talkert and find out who the your September
She
teacher
can
is.
answer all the questions for you.
Your answer is
yeah.
to call Mrs. Tacker, but you can also get the information out that a letter will be going out referring to who the September through December teacher will be, and that will occur tomorrow through an email.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn? Chuck, John, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.